Hey everyone, welcome back to Dasker Discusses. Yes, it's been a while since my last upload, but I'm here bigger and better than ever with a review that, well, as soon as I saw this film, I had to do it. And I know it's been a couple of weeks since it's come out, but yes, I'm here to, well, discuss, not so much review because too many spoilers, the new movie Joker. Let's do this. As I said, it's been a while, but I'm back and I thought, well, you know what? I saw Joker on the day that it was released a couple of weeks ago and I haven't had a chance to give out that review, and I've been on the net and read all sorts of reviews and watched all sorts of reviews as well, and I must say, well, the consensus for this film is a bit 50-50, but I just want to say that being more of a DC than a Marvel fan, I was really looking forward to this all year. It was in my top 10 anticipated films of 2019, and I must say, from the start till the end, I wasn't disappointed. This, by Todd Phillips, directed by Todd Phillips, is fantastic. Joaquin Pheonix playing Arthur Fleck, the key character of the Joker, is also amazing. I mean, you get a lot of people saying, you know, who was better, Heath Ledger or Jack Nicholson, or Heath Ledger and Joaquin Pheonix? We'll get to that later, but in terms of this, I don't want to give away too much, but the whole kind of premise of this film follows the story of Arthur Fleck. Just a roundabout kind of guy, you know, he's a bit of a loner, doesn't have many friends, he looks after his mother, and things start to, obviously, you know, we find out more information about Arthur and what's happening in his life and the problems that he has, and obviously he has some mental health issues in there as well, and the story kind of progresses and it goes on and on to see that, you know, basically he works as a clown, you know, like you can hire clowns, and he works for this kind of company where people do make fun of him and bully him. He wants to become a stand-up comedian, he goes and tries that. Again, no spoilers in this because I think it just gives away too much, so maybe some spoilers near the end. Joaquin Phoenix's performance in this is, bar none, one of the best performances I've seen in a long time. And look, in terms of Oscar worthy, I mean, it'd be great if he gets nominated, and if he wins it, I think it's definitely on the cards that he should win it. I mean, you know, I love Rami Malek in Bohemian Rhapsody, but I just, you know, two different roles, but Joaquin really takes this role to the edge, like to the point where, you know, it's kind of like you feel sorry for the character of Arthur, but then by the end of the film, it's kind of like you've got this different view on him and the universe around it. The way Todd Phillips has actually created this universe of Gotham, and you've got this whole kind of concept of, you know, elitism in there. There's a lot of strong themes in this, which I don't want to spoil, but having Thomas Wayne in there, and obviously, you know, it's in this Batman universe, yet you don't see Batman in the film per se. It's more of a character-driven story of Arthur and how he goes about his daily lives and what happens to him, and how, I guess you could say, society kind of fails him in a way, and how he inevitably becomes the Joker, right? Now, there are some really good ways that the director's done this to not trick the audience, but there's some kind of like interesting ways they go about in surprising the audience. But I found, as I was watching this halfway through, even before all the reviews and everything came out, I was thinking to myself, this feels like a Martin Scorsese film in terms of, like, it's got a mixture of Taxi Driver, it's got a mixture of King of Comedy as well, and if you've seen them, you can see why. Now, Robert De Niro plays a small role in there as a talk show host, and that kind of links well to King of Comedy. In terms of how it links to Taxi Driver, I just think the way it's filmed, the way it's shot, the way the city is, the way the city lives and breathes, it's got this kind of cesspool of, like, I don't know, and they do mention in the film how there's garbage everywhere, it's just a disgusting place to live, and, you know, that the people in the lower socioeconomic backgrounds are treated unfairly, and that's where the film kind of kicks off when Arthur's on the train and he meets these Wall Street guys. Don't want to give it away, but it's kind of like that birth there where we've seen Joaquin Phoenix become the Joker from that, and what is he a symbol of? Now, in other Batman films, you had, you know, Heath Ledger being the anarchist, you know, he's a agent of chaos, as he says as well, right? In the original Batman film in the first Batman film with, you know, Jack Nicholson and Michael Keaton, it's different. It's more of a, you know, it's that gothic kind of tale of like the Joker, but you can't compare those Jokers to Joaquin Phoenix. I really felt that this film can touch a bit of a nerve with a lot of people, and it was interesting to see that even before the film came out, a lot of those reviews and articles and blogs reading about how this is a dangerous film, how this is going to, like, somehow spark some sort of copycat killings or something like that. Now, I'm not going to get into all that, but as a media teacher myself, you know, I have to deal and I have to discuss certain things about violence in the media, violence in video games and films, etc. So I was really keeping an eye out for those kind of things. And I even had friends that said, oh my god, this film is so violent, it's so gritty, and it's so like disturbing with the violence. Now, as I was watching the film, I could see how some people could perceive that violence in it, but as a film buff as well, I'm thinking, well, there's not that much more violent than other action. Action is different. You got Deadpool, Rambo, all the films that have been out recently as well. But in terms of this kind of violence, I think the whole thing is that people found this extremely violent because of the way that Joaquin's character's portrayed as well, and the way it goes about it in terms of touching that nerve between mental health and society driving someone to this. I'm not saying that the film that they show that it's driven for him to do these violent acts, but I could see how this film can be put up there as a scapegoat for, there's going to be copycat killings, whatever. You can always look at films like Natural Born Killers back in the day in the 90s as well, and the uproar that caused as well. I could think of dozens and dozens of films where people can sit there and think, wow, that film's going to influence people as well. When I watched Rocky as a kid, it made me want to go and, play box with my brother and fight and all that, and all the Karate Kid or Bruce Lee films. It's just that these days as well, I'm just saying in terms of like the films that we've been given out there recently with all the Marvels and Star Wars and, a few good horror films like Hereditary that come out, something like this where it's character driven reminds me a lot of Taxi Driver, has this some scenes of graphic violence where it can touch a nerve in terms of the way the story's portrayed, the way everything's portrayed in the film, that the violence in it is quite graphic and you're not ready for it by such a character like the Joker that Joaquin plays. So calm at times, but then has these outbursts. So I can understand that point of view. But in terms of like all these bloggers saying that it's going to cause this mass kind of like copycat thing or it's a dangerous film, I definitely don't agree with that. Now, I reckon halfway through the film, as I was watching it, probably maybe, near 3/4 in, I'm thinking, you know what, this is a solid 8 out of 10 for me. Everything is just working fine. The film didn't drag on at all. Some people said it did. A lot of people saying that this film is boring. A lot of people saying that it's fantastic. You're in that field of like there's 50-50 on both. I definitely don't think it's boring. I definitely think what's happened is, and as Martin Scorsese said as well, not getting into that debate, but him saying that Marvel films and the superhero films are kind of like a theme park for cinema, and they are not cinema, if that's what he actually mentioned in that, then I'm not saying I agree with him 100%, but I understand. I was really happy with this type of film because it was finally something that you can actually go out and you can talk to friends and talk about some of the themes and issues in it, rather than worrying about a bunch of Infinity Stones. I know I'm going to probably annoy a lot of people there, but I'm just saying, they're two different genres, so I'm not even going to put them in the same category, right? So, in terms of DC, who knows if there'll be a sequel for this, but that's what's interesting, there's so much to build on from this one character and this one origin story. It's going to be interesting what they do with Robert Pattinson's Batman, which is, again, is it the same universe? Probably not as well. Be very interesting. I haven't given away too much of the plot. I told you guys what it is about the Joker and Arthur Fleck and how his character is and how it builds up. I can't give away too much, but it does lead to a big crescendo of like this final act where after the last 20 minutes happened, I was like, yep, convinced. As soon as that screen went to black right at the end, it was like scene after scene in that last 25 minutes of just perfection, and I was blown away completely. I can't wait to see it again as well. I thought it was fantastic, and it's just something fresh, even though it did borrow a lot from other films, you could say, but Todd Phillips did a really good job. Joaquin Phoenix did an amazing job. If you haven't seen it already, I would suggest it's number one on your list, on my list, for you to go see it now as well. There's some other great films out now. It's been out for a couple of weeks, but if you haven't seen it, go and see it and make up your own mind. Don't listen to people saying that it was boring, it was long, it was crap, or it's dangerous, or it's too violent. Make up your own mind. You're adults, right? Now, in terms of the rating that I'm going to give it, I'll tell you what, it was in my top 10 anticipated films for 2018, and I've had some other films that I went and saw. It Chapter 2 recently, and I'll tell you what, I was severely disappointed with that. Maybe I'll do a review on that soon. But in terms of Joker, Joaquin, and what he brought to it, and the directing, and how it all reminded me of like a bygone era of great cinema, I'm going to give my first ever 10 out of 10 for Joker. Yep, you heard me right. 10 out of 10. Why? You heard it why. I'm not just jumping on no bandwagons or anything like that. I sat there with, you know, a fine-tooth comb. I sat there watching everything in the film, but I'm sorry, it all comes down to how it just started, the narrative structure, which starts off as a slow burn and then reaches this peak where after those lights went, when the lights came up, sorry, at the end of the film, I'm like, yep, if I do a review on this, which I have to, it's gonna be a 10 out of 10. Now maybe I'll do a spoiler review video in another time, but I'll wait for Blu-ray to come out. But I just want to say that it was one of the greatest films I've seen in the last, I don't know, 5 years, you could say 10 years even. I have to watch it again, but I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought in the comments as well. If you like this video, leave me a like. If you want to subscribe and be updated with more of my videos, please hit subscribe. And otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next episode of Daska Discusses. Boom!